This was from the federal courthouse today in Richmond, Virginia, the Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. I will read to you from this ruling. Quote, "It is difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case it is not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, that there is nothing that can be done. This should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. The government asserts that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident of its position, it should be assured that that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. Moreover, the government has conceded that Abrego Garcia was wrongly or, quote, mistakenly deported. Why, then, should it not make what was wrong right? Quote, the Supreme Court's decision remains, as always, our guidepost. The decision rightly requires the lower federal courts to give due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs. The Supreme Court's decision does not, however, allow the government to do essentially nothing. It requires the government to, quote, facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent there. Facilitate is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken, as the Supreme Court has made perfectly clear. Facilitation does not permit the admittedly erroneous deportation of an individual in disregard of a court order that the government not so subtly spurns. Facilitation does not sanction the abrogation of habeas corpus through the transfer of custody to foreign detention centers in the manner attempted here. Allowing this would, quote, facilitate foreign detention more than it would domestic return. It would reduce the rule of law to lawlessness and tarnish the very values for which Americans of diverse views and persuasions have always stood. The government is obviously frustrated and displeased with the rulings of the court. Let one thing be clear. Court rulings are not above criticism. Criticism keeps us on our toes and helps us do a better job. Court rulings can overstep, and they can further intrude upon the prerogatives of other branches. Courts thus speak with the knowledge of their imperfections, but also with a sense that they instill a fidelity to law that would be sorely missed in their absence. If today the executive branch claims the right to deport without due process and in disregard of court orders, what assurance will there be tomorrow that it will not deport American citizens and then disclaim responsibility to bring them home? And what assurance shall there be that the executive will not train its broad discretionary powers upon its political enemies? The threat, even if not the actuality, would always be present, and the executive's obligation to take care that the laws be faithfully executed would lose its meaning. Today, both the U.S. and El Salvadoran governments disclaim any authority and or responsibility to return Mr. Abrego Garcia. We are told that neither government has the power to act. The result will be to leave matters generally, and Mr. Abrego Garcia specifically, in an interminable limbo without recourse to law of any sort. The basic differences between the branches mandate a serious effort at mutual respect. The respect that courts must accord the executive must be reciprocated by the executive's respect for the courts. Too often today, this has not been the case, as calls for impeachment of judges for decisions the executive disfavors and exhortations to disregard court orders sadly illustrate. Now the branches come too close to grinding irrevocably against one another in a conflict that promises to diminish both. This is a losing proposition all around. The judiciary will lose much from the constant intimations of its illegitimacy, to which by dint of custom and detachment we can only sparingly reply. But the executive will lose much from a public perception of its lawlessness and all of its attendant contagions. The executive may succeed for a time in weakening the courts, but over time history will script the tragic gap between what was and all that might have been. And law, in time, will sign its epitaph. It is, as we have noted, all too possible to see in this case an incipient crisis. But it may present an opportunity as well. We yet cling to the hope that it is not naive to believe our good brethren in the executive branch perceive the rule of law as vital to the American ethos. This case presents their unique chance to vindicate that value and to summon the best that is within us while there is still time. While there is still time. That ruling today, written by a high-profile conservative judge on the Fourth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. In case it's not obvious, the point of that ruling is to deny the Trump administration what it was asking for, which was an emergency stay to let them avoid what the courts have thus far very plainly ordered them to do. This ruling on the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, in which the Trump administration has been ordered to bring him back to the U.S.
Then what's happening here? I think we are heading into one of the great legal and constitutional events, I don't want to say crises, of my lifetime. Reading the appellate opinion that Judge Harvey Wilkinson issued last night, talking about this case, I've rarely seen more brilliant and thoughtful language in a judicial decision than this. He says that we are, I believe his language is, grinding irrevocably towards a confrontation between the branches of government. He tries to speak sympathetically to the executive branch. He speaks to the judicial branch that he represents. But you couldn't ask, I mean, I wrote to a friend, 100 years from now, people will read that decision as a model of clarity in crisis. And it reassures me that our judicial system is as intact as ever, that this is going to the Supreme Court with, I think, more and more clarity about the lawlessness of the executive, and that in that sense, we're heading toward this crisis not with Trump on the rise. We watched a segment of Trump that we began this show with. Trump is backing away. It's a classic Trump. Well, I don't know much about this. That's what he says when he's about to lose. You know, he just, it's not my problem. I'm looking to others. So, but I urge viewers, if you have a minute, take a look at that appellate opinion and tell me if you don't feel better about the country when you've read it.
Well, I mean, the judicial branch has stepped forward, and again, it's pretty unambiguous. I mean, again, in 2019, Judge ruled he couldn't be taken out of the country. Trump administration then obviously agreed. They didn't appeal it. Trump administration this time said, we made a mistake. And again, it's just like the Signalgate thing. Know when to say, hey, we made a mistake. We're going to bring him back and move on. I don't understand, because you see, the thing is, what the White House is trying to do, with some of the White House at least, they're trying to paint this, oh, these are left-wingers. I mean, this is MSNBC and CNN, this is New York Times editorial. No, it's not. It's Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan has gone out there and say, what's going on here, man? I don't understand this. You have Ann Coulter talking about deportations of people because what they said politically. She said, again, Ann Coulter. I thought we had a First Amendment, Ann Coulter said. You've got the voice for the right wing, the National Review, just eviscerating the administration and the Justice Department and Marco Rubio on this Garcia case. You have Murdoch's Wall Street Journal editorial page constantly. I mean, this, again, why fight on a ground where you're going to lose? Like, this is, I guess some people inside the White House are thinking just like they did at the beginning of Signalgate, oh, these are just lefties that are, no, man. You got town hall meetings where you've got Chuck Grassley in Iowa, and he's in the middle of Iowa. And you got people yelling from the audience, what about that guy in El Salvador? Are you going to bring him back? That's in the heartland of Iowa. And those weren't lefties. We saw. It's on video. And then you even had trade unions now throwing their political weight. I mean, because actually they call Abrego Garcia a brother because he was a member of their union. The Maryland man was in the first year of a sheet metal worker's apprenticeship when, mistakes happen. He was mistakenly deported by immigration enforcement. Now his union, the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers, want him back. And last week, the president of North America's Building Trades Union received a standing ovation when he called for Abrego Garcia's return. Watch this.
You want to build a $5 billion data center? Want more six-figure careers with health care, retirement, and no college debt? You don't call Elon Musk. You call us. North America's building trade unions. And yeah, that means all of us, including our brother, smart apprentice, Kilmar Arbrega Garcia, who we demand to be returned to us and his family now. Bring him home.
Gene Robinson, I mean, just not a fight. Yeah. They need to be fighting. They're wrong on the law. They're wrong on the facts. They're wrong. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of fights to win here. This, as we've said on this show every day, is a political winner with Americans as far as getting, we've all said it, getting violent gang members out of this country. We've said it from the very beginning. There are fights to be had on this issue politically that they can fight and win. It's just one of them, is it? I mean, when you see images like that, when you have Joe Rogan, when you have all of these other people on the right or some on the far right saying, come on, deport them. We want them deported, but do it the right way, the way 9 Supreme Court justices are saying you need to do it.
That's absolutely right. And, you know, there are a couple of issues. There's the question of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, judged by that support from his union. The entire evidence against him in terms of being a gang member seems to consist of the fact that he was hanging out in a Home Depot parking lot one morning with some other people who at least one of whom might have done something wrong. And then there's an unnamed informant who said, oh, yeah, he's a gang member once with no verification, no proof, no evidence, just an allegation, again, by an unnamed informant. And on that basis, they're calling him a violent terrorist who needs to be deported to El Salvador. I'm going to underscore what David Ignatius said, though. That opinion by Judge Harvey Wilkinson, it's incredibly eloquent, and this is a voice that conservative jurists listen to because he is a highly respected conservative judge. He has been for many years. And so this will be noticed this will be noticed by the judiciary, including the Supreme Court. Everybody's going to read.
It's good to see. Trump's arguments are being thrown out. Judges are getting furious again. When judges raise their voices, they raise their tempers, you often hear them yelling through the page in written decisions sometimes, because there's a difference between, okay, an administration loses a case, but, there was a good faith legal debate, or an administration loses a case and they were being a bit, they were being a bit like scummy, but look, it happens in politics. The judge might give a few stern words. But what Trump and his team are doing here is a whole nother level. When you heard the judge, and we saw this a couple days ago, basically say to Trump's team, to Trump and his team, no vacations, no excuses, you're going to be in this friggin' courtroom to have these debates with me, to figure this out, because I don't trust that you're actually doing your job. When a judge has to start saying things like that, in the tone they're saying it, that's unprecedented. It really is. We didn't see that from the Biden years. We didn't see that from the Obama years. I don't think we saw that from the Bush years. I was younger, but let me know. I don't think we saw that from the Bush years. But we are seeing it from the Trump years. Because judges realize that in many ways, there's two lines of defense right now against Trump. It's the people in the streets protesting him, and it's the judges holding him to account.